Today is Tuesday, August 20th, 2024. On this date, exactly 10 years ago, I didn't do something I had been doing for 12 years. I didn't take a benzo. I didn't take my Klonopin. I am now 10 years benzo-free today. And I thought maybe it might be good to talk about that a bit. Hello there, this is D, and welcome to episode 135 of the Benzo Free Podcast. I'm so glad you joined me today. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm recording this one. This is my 10th anniversary Benzo Free. Now, the only caveat I want to throw out there is, of course, I have had a couple medical procedures, some surgery, and I think a couple of those, they may have given me midazolam, and I okayed it. And very short-acting benzo. So that would be the only benzo I took since then. I did updose during my taper, but I have taken no benzodiazepines myself since that date. It's been 10 years I've been off benzos. And it's really hard to kind of grasp that. I don't know where the time's gone. It's I know you can say, wow, it went by fast, which it's hard to believe it's 10 years, so I guess it kind of did, but it's also been a really slow and arduous journey. And I thought, it might be interesting today just to take the chance to go back and look at what I've been through during those 10 years, which includes a lot of you. You've been along for the ride. Symptoms I experienced, and maybe talk a little bit about some of the symptoms that we all share. And also to touch on things I've learned. And I thought that might be a nice thing to wrap up. And maybe what I know now that I didn't know then. And I thought that would be an interesting topic. I hope you feel the same way and you'll join me for today's podcast. So to kick this off, let's jump back really quickly to, I'll say really quickly. I say that, but I'm not very good at that. But let's jump back to where this started from me. Somewhere in the middle of 2012, I don't know the exact dates, I was prescribed Prozac by a new doctor. I'd been to several different doctors during that time, but a new doctor, primary care physician, because she thought it'd be good for me to come off of my Klonopin. I had no idea what that meant or why I would need to do that. I'd been taking it for 12 years. I don't know what was going on, but I quickly learned when I looked online, as so many of you have done the same. And I freaked out. I had an all-out panic attack. I had one of the worst nights of my life, and I was just fit to be tied. I went to several doctors, including the doctor who prescribed the Klonopin, who believed I don't need to come off it. I finally went to a primary care physician I had several years back, who still didn't believe I needed to come off the benzo, but was willing to work with me, and I trusted him, and he turned out to be a good ally for me for this process. But he did want me to wait, so I waited 6 months. He told me to wait 6 months because he knew I wasn't stable mentally. And he was right about that. I didn't like the idea. I wanted to get this damn drug out of me as soon as possible. But he knew that this could be a difficult task for some people, and so he made me wait. I came back in about 6 months. I had a plan. I had studied Ashton to the nth degree. I had read articles. I had just pulled, all this information. So I totally knew what I was doing back then. And he said, okay. And so I started a taper. It took me 18 months to come off of Klonopin. I did a direct taper off the drug. And on August 20th, 2014, I didn't take a dose of Klonopin. The first time in over 12 years. And I've been benzo-free ever since. Oh, it's kind of crazy to look back at that and think about, what all happened during that time and what all happened since then. During my taper, I had symptoms. I had some interesting ones kick in. I had some ones that were challenging. It wasn't horrible, but it surely wasn't easy. My most difficult days kicked in after my last dose of Klonopin, which is quite common with Klonopin. And when I say Klonopin, it's the brand name for clonazepam, if you don't know, so you understand what I'm talking about. What was I going to say? I actually have notes for this one. I did write out some notes, so I'm not going to get too lost today because I wanted to make sure I hit on the points that I wanted to hit on. But I did have a lot of trouble, especially those first year and a half, first few years off of Klonopin. I had a lot of symptoms, and they hit me hard. We're going to talk about the symptoms in a second, but let me just run you through a brief history of what I've done during that time and done since then. I had my last dose on August 20th, 2014. On August 20th, 2018, 4 years after my last dose, I published my book, Benzo Free, The World of Anti-Anxiety Drugs and the Reality of Withdrawal, which has been in print since then and is still selling copies. So thank you all who are interested in the book. Maybe one day I'll write an update for it. I just haven't had the motivation or the discipline to do that at this point. But I followed that up by the Benzo Free podcast, which launched on February 20th, 2019. You see this theme of the 20th, I kind of a year away or 6 months. Since that was my anniversary of my last dose, that seemed to be a good date to do things, to change things. And I now have 130. This is the 135th episode of the Benzo Free podcast. And I also put out a website by the same name to provide support. So all that happened in 2016. And in 2019, I helped found a grassroots organization here in Colorado that later became the Benzodiazepine Action Work Group. Benzodiazepine Action Work Group, which is at benzoaction.org if you want to check it out, which I also co-chaired along with Dr. Alexis Ritvo from the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Center for 3 years. Together, we co-chaired that group, which is part of the Colorado Consortium for Prescription Drug Abuse Prevention. And I just stepped down from that position in March of this year. I figured after 3 years, both of us, Dr. Ritvo and myself, both felt it was time for us to step down and let some other people take charge and keep it going. So it's still going active. I'm still a member and still attend many of the meetings, but I don't nearly have the involvement I did at the time. So I backed away a little bit. That same year, also in 2019, I joined Dr. Jane McCoubry and the late Dr. Christy Huff to help analyze data from a survey that they did in 2018 and 2019. And I helped work with Dr. Jane McCoubry for a while there, getting that data up to speed. And then Dr. Huff came along and helped with some of that too, came back to work with us on that. She also helped create it, of course, with Dr. McCoubry. They launched that. And it's still the largest benzo survey to date that I know of. So it's pretty cool. And it was my entry into medical research. Never thought I'd be a medical researcher. Never thought it was something I had the skills to do or was willing to do. But I dove in and gave it a shot. And since then, we published 3 papers on that survey. I've also published another 2 papers that I've been a co-author of. So now I'm co-author of 5 papers in medical journals and another letter to the editor. So 6 items I've had published as a co-author now in peer-reviewed journals. So who would have thought that somebody like yours truly would have 6 papers out there? And I'm working on 4 new ones, 2 that are currently in process and another 2 that I'm starting to put teams together for. So and hopefully those will produce some more papers. So we're doing a lot of research, and it's been exciting, and it's been pretty cool. I'm on multiple research teams, some sponsored by the FDA and American Society for Addiction Medicine, one out of Ireland I've been part of for a while. I had a couple papers published out of that one. Some other groups that I've been involved with, one group out of Beth Israel Medical Center, and just a whole different areas that I've been pulled into and worked with individuals. And it's been educational for sure. Probably the number one thing, it's been educational. I've learned so much about medicine. I've learned so much about benzodiazepines, and I've learned so much about the objective evaluation of these drugs. And it's helped me, I think, immensely in what I do and to be a better advocate for those of us who struggle with this. In 2021, I launched Easing Anxiety, And the Benzo Free podcast became part of that. And I also launched a new YouTube channel. So I had two YouTube channels for a while, and then we went back to where there's just one for easing anxiety. And on March 20th, 2024, I launched my second podcast, Uneven. And I'm now prepping our membership site, which I am going to sign up for this today. I say today, I'm recording this yesterday, just so you know. When I say today, it's because I'm launching this on the 20th, but I got some other things going on Tuesday. So I'm actually recording it Monday afternoon before. So starting tomorrow, I will be signing up for our membership portal website, the software. Officially, it's the 20th. It's the 10th year anniversary. It seemed like the right day to start the next phase. So that seems to be my ongoing process, and it seems to work for me. So I'll be signing that up, and then I'll be getting some people involved with it right away to help design it and get it up and running. And we hope to have it up open to the public for free on October 1st. And for 3 months to run that for free through the end of the year. And then it'll become a membership site effective January 1st, 2025. So keep your eyes open for that. I will announce it every place I can once that comes out. And you can be a huge help in helping us build that out to be what is most helpful for all of you. So please look for information on that as it's coming along. So as it's coming out, as it's moving itself along the thing or whatever, or that other thing, a jab or whatever, I don't know what I'm talking about, do I? No, I sometimes meander and ramble. But as you can tell, I've been busy. Throughout all that, I've been dealing with benzo withdrawal, what we now call bind. In fact, that's one of those accomplishments in there was that third paper from the survey was the bind paper. Anyway, there have been a lot of really, really hard times in the past 10 years. And I just want to say thank you first to you all. So many of you have lived through them with me. And thank you. I really don't believe I'd be here today without you all. You got me through, so thank you. I say that with a tear in my eye right now, because I mean it. And hopefully, and I know from some of your emails and many of your emails, you've told me what it meant to you. And the work that I've done and the work that we've done together. And thanks for letting me know. Thanks for letting me know, because it meant everything to me. So I started getting better. My symptoms were getting better. I was still experiencing waves and windows. And then, of course, the last couple of years, I kind of had a setback because I hit some long COVID. And I think that's what's caused this. And we're going to do some research on that and kind of figure out the details there. But I've had some difficulties lately. But you know what? I'm still here. I'm still moving forward. I'm still optimistic. And I also want to put that caveat out to you all really quickly that me at 10 years out, still with some symptoms that are moderate to severe, I am an anomaly. I am in the minority. Most of you, the vast majority of you, will never experience symptoms that long or that severe for that period of time. Those of us, and there are several of you who are listening who are part of that, who have been at this long, know that we're that minority. Don't forget that most of the people who have healed, are healed fully, or healed almost fully, have left the community. They've gone back to their lives, and we don't hear from them. That's why it seems so skewed. Most people heal fully. Most people heal quickly. Most people come out of this with some problems sometimes. We're the minority, but very few people have had it as long as I have. And there are other conditions. I took a fluoroquinolone. I updosed. I'm ADHD. I have a lot of other comorbidities that make this more likely that I might suffer a protracted type of condition. Also, Klonopin, we found out with some of the research that Klonopin seems to have a higher incidence of protracted symptomatology. So, meaning that drug more than some of the other brands, some of the other types of benzos, seems to have a higher prevalence in people experiencing symptoms for a longer period of time. Don't have solid evidence on that yet, so I want to say that's anecdotal. But from what we've seen, there definitely seems to be a pattern And I just wanted to throw that out there. So anyway, so I want to cover a couple things. One is I wanted to mention some of the symptoms I've dealt with, and because I think it's going to connect and it might be interesting. And number two, then I want to talk about a few lessons learned over this time and and how I look at it now. So let's dive into symptoms. And one of the ways, I thought, what's the best way to cover this? Because I don't know about you, but I probably have written out a list of my symptoms a couple times along the way, but they change and I get new ones. Like I've had some recent ones that I had ever had before. And so I don't really have that drawn out list of all my symptoms. I just don't have it. But what I do have are these graphs that I've worked up, the 14 categories of symptoms that I used Ashton's work, and then I modified them briefly, and I've put them into training programs, and I put them on my website, and all that kind of stuff. So this is where this is coming from. And I thought, why don't I just run through those 14 categories and talk a little bit about what I've been through and see how that connects with some of your symptoms. I just think it might be interesting to go back and revisit some of the things, and also to talk about, was it short-lived? Was it long-lived? Did it last a long time? Has it come back? Has it stayed with? What was the experience like? And there's a lot here to deal with, and this isn't going to cover all of them. But this is a good basis, I think, to use. So let me readjust myself in my chair here, and let's just run through these really quickly. So they're broken down into two core types. First is psychological symptoms, and there's 7 types. And then there's physical symptoms, and there's 7 types. Let's start with psychological. And the first category is anxiety. Underneath this category is general anxiety. And just so you know, I will put a link to the page with these on it in the show notes. So if you want to go see this list, just go to the show notes and you will see a link for this listing. We've used this in a lot of training, so it's become a pretty common tool. Anxiety is the first category. Underneath this, we have general anxiety, hypochondria, panic attacks, paranoid thoughts, and phobias. And of these, well, generalized anxiety. I think 98% of us who have had any kind of symptoms coming off benzodiazepines have dealt with anxiety, have dealt with sometimes severe anxiety, even debilitating anxiety as I have. And it's come and gone. And it's the one thing that seems to make all the other symptoms worse. And I have had that from day one. I even had on here is panic attacks. I had my first real panic attack that night. I learned about what might have happened to me with these benzos, and that was scary. I've had a couple of those since then, but mostly it's been strong anxiety and not quite panic attack level. I know, though, many of you have dealt with that. Hypochondria is really common because we don't know what's really wrong with us, and we think all these things are wrong with, and we go through this cycle, and we think, it's just this feeling, or is this feeling, or is this a symptom? We don't know, and often it is, and sometimes it isn't. But I think we have to deal with that, and that's one of those factors of it. Paranoid thoughts, people have phobias, and I have some phobias. One of mine that really did roller coaster was my fear of heights. Acrophobia is the term for that one. And I went through a period where I had extreme fear of heights. And now that's eased some and it's more moderate, but then it comes back a little bit. And so that's a good example of one. I know for so many of you, fear of crowds, fear of people has been, social phobias have been significant throughout all of this. So agoraphobia is really common. And I know this has happened to so many people. So second category is behavioral. This includes anger, irritability, rage, aggression, depression, obsessions, apathy, suicidal thoughts, personality change, psychosis, and other ones. Definitely I'm on this list. I had the anger and irritability. Those were, I don't think I ever got into rage, thankfully, but some of us do. But I definitely had the anger and irritability at times. Some of that's just because this is so unfair, and we just get angry. We just get really angry that this happened to us. And some of that is, but some of it also is just our GABA receptors and our system and our nervous system has been damaged, and we can't respond to these angry instigators and triggers that we have coming at us, and we don't process it well. And so we can wind up getting very angry at things, and it can lead to aggression and rage and all that kind of stuff. Depression, Most of us have dealt with that. It's very common. Suicidal thoughts. This is a big one in the benzo community. I wish to say it didn't happen, but it does, as many of you know. Many of you have lost people close to you. I've lost people close to me. And it's happened far too often. And so that one has hit us. Have I had these? I've gotten close, not to trying, but gotten close to having those types of thoughts. I think it's right there. It's hard when you have this ongoing thing for 10 years. It's hard not at some point to think, I just want it to end. I just need this to be over with. But we can't let that win. We can't let that win. Because there is a brighter day on the other side. I believe it. There is that rainbow on the other side. There is that light on the other side. And I know if I stick with this, things will get better. And even when things are really bad, there still are some good things going on. And to have gratitude for those good things and to focus on those good things to help lift you out of that big pit that you wind up in. So that's a good thing to have. Personality change is another one that I had. My personality changed. I think some of that personality change was for the better. Some of it may not. I don't know. But I definitely know my wife has said that I'm more caring and more understanding now than I used to be. And I think that's because of the trials I've been through. I think I have more empathy, more sympathy for individuals who suffer. And that's why I've dedicated the last 10 years of my life, 12 years now, I guess, to trying to help out those individuals who suffer, because I know what that's like. The third category for psychological is cognitive dysfunction, memory loss, intrusive memories, hypersensitivity, lack of concentration, easily overwhelmed. Yeah, I got all these, okay? And these have come and gone over the 10 years. I don't think straight. I get benzo brain. I get these brain blocks. I still get some of them. I've gotten better at some things. And then I've had some setbacks on some things. Memories have come back a little bit. Lack of concentration and overwhelmed. Overwhelm's a big one. I get easily overwhelmed and I just kind of shut down, and the anxiety kicks in and the frustration kicks in and the anger kicks in. And I know what's that like. And I still deal with some of that today. I still deal with some of it. Am I better than I was when I first came off of Klonopin? Yeah, I think so. In the areas of memory and cognitive dysfunction, but I still have some of it. Unfortunately. The fourth category is excitability. This includes akathisia, agitation, jumpiness, restlessness, and restless legs. And I'm right there on all these too. I think I have to admit, of all these 14 categories, I got a feeling I'm in every single one of them. I know I am. I have at least one of the symptoms in each one. I mean, my symptoms are probably dozens, so I'm guessing it's in the 70s or 80s total unique symptoms. But akathisia, I still get. It's not as bad as it used to be. I had a period of about a year or so that it was really tough. Most evenings I would sit in the chair, watching some TV with my wife in the evening, and I would have to get up and go do stairs or practice my drum set or do something to work out that energy that I had. And it makes sleeping difficult. It makes trying to sit quietly and have a nice conversation with somebody difficult, because you gotta get up and move. And it's so hard. And so I definitely had that one. The jumpiness, not so much. Restless legs, that came with the akathisia. So yeah, I think those two are together. The fifth category within psychological is perception. This includes depersonalization, derealization, hallucinations, misperceptions, and perceptual distortions. If there's one category of all of these that I did not have as much, it's this one. And I am very grateful for that. DPDR, which is depersonalization, derealization. I've worked with many people who have dealt with that, and it's really, really a hard one to deal with. I had touches of that. So I guess I am in this category a little bit. I had touches of that on an extreme point, an extreme time during my recovery, but it didn't last too long. And it faded away. So it was not a significant symptom for me. Not so much on the hallucinations, misperceptions, but I was grateful. This was not a significant one for me. And I'm happy to have one category that wasn't as significant because I've seen what others are going through, and I feel for what others are going through with perceptual distortions and such. So, the sixth category here is sleeping. Insomnia, intrusive nightmares, return of dreaming, toxic naps, and sleep apnea. Yeah, had those. I've never been tested for sleep apnea, although I think I kind of had it, although I think I'm doing a little better since I've lost a little weight. Anyway, not so much that, but insomnia for sure. Intrusive nightmares, yes. Boy, the return of dreaming, the return of nightmares, that's the thing that really surprises so many people because these drugs suppress our dreams so often. They suppress REM and SWS sleep, and that suppresses our dreams. And people are so often amazed and frightened to death by the return of dreams and nightmares. And I guess it's good to have them back, but at the same point, boy, it can be overwhelming and really tough. So that can be difficult for people. So definitely insomnia still comes and goes. In fact, last night I was I had a couple nights of insomnia. Last night I was on the sofa because I didn't want to wake my wife up, and just slept there. I got a little bit of sleep, but I was up most of the night. But it doesn't happen that often for me anymore. It more comes in waves, like every few weeks or so I have a night or two of insomnia, but then it goes away again and I'm okay. Last category for psychological symptoms is social, which includes agoraphobia, anthrophobia, haphophobia, social phobias, isolationism, and emotional distancing. I think we already touched on phobias a little bit because they are also under anxiety. So I guess this is one that kind of hits both of them. But under social, these are just some of those phobias that are related to people. And I did have a little bit of this, and this is another one that wasn't significant because, well, I think in my core I'm introverted. I have a lot of extroverted tendencies, as you can tell. I host a podcast. We probably wouldn't do this if I wasn't extroverted. But I did get more isolated. I did pull back. I have been more protective of that bubble around me and not as comfortable talking around people. I'm not as comfortable approaching people as I was. I still do it, and it's still kind of natural for me, but I'm not as good at it, if that makes sense. I've definitely noticed a change in me of how I am in a social setting. I used to be very comfortable, and I'm a little more awkward now. I think some of that's improved a little bit since it was really bad, but I still have some of that, and I think it's kind of interesting. Isolationism is a big part of that, and so many individuals dealing with bind are isolated and alone and feel forgotten and feel pushed aside and feel ignored. That is a significant issue, one we don't talk about enough, but one we should. And maybe that's a good topic for us to dive into, is the isolation piece of bind. It's significant. It's significant. That's it for the psychological categories. Let's move on to the 7 physical ones. The first category of physical symptoms, this is a big one. It's abdominal and gastrointestinal. I kind of shoved them together just to kind of make one category. It's basically things in your gut. This includes abdominal pain, appetite change, benzo belly, constipation, diarrhea, distension, inflammation, nausea, groin pain, pelvic floor dysfunction, urinary difficulties, vomiting, and weight change, among others. Many of you relate to these. Benzo belly, still to this day, I think is the most listened to podcast episode I've put out there. And I put out a couple on benzo belly now because it's so significant. I think it's affected our digestive system so much. I had huge problems with my stomach. I had abdominal pain. I had distension. I've had the benzo belly. I've had all those things. I've also had the pelvic floor dysfunction, which was diagnosed as prostatitis first, and that's why I had to take that fluoroquinolone. Didn't have to, but why I mistakenly took a fluoroquinolone, which added to probably my neuropathy and all the other issues I have. But there's so many urinary difficulties. I now pee more often than I used to, and it's uncomfortable and it's embarrassing and it's limiting to know you can't be too far from a bathroom at times. And that's part of my pelvic floor dysfunction and everything else, and I'm working on that. I'm working on trying to get my body back to an optimal state, but it's not easy and it's a struggle sometimes. So Anyway, so we're making progress, and I'm doing better. Again, I don't want this to come across also negative, but I know it's going to. I just want to touch base with all of you and say I've dealt with a lot of, because so many of these symptoms have improved significant for me. They really have, and so many of them I don't even have anymore. So I just want to make sure you understand my anger and irritability has really eased up a lot. My general anxiety is better. My akathisia is definitely significantly better and doesn't happen much. My insomnia is so much better now. I sleep really well most of the time, and that's great. Even the cognitive dysfunction and memory loss, that has gotten better. So most of those psychological symptoms have really gotten better. My stomach has definitely gotten better. At one point, I was eating only chicken and white rice because that's all I could really manage to keep down. I mean, not so much keep down, but that wouldn't really upset my stomach and upset my symptoms. And that's not the case anymore. I can eat mostly what I want. And it comes and goes, but my diet is much more open now. So I just want to keep reminding people that most of this stuff has come and gone or eased significantly for me. So even though I'm having setbacks and stuff with symptoms, especially some new symptoms, a lot of these old ones have moved on, and so that's really good. Second category for physical symptoms is eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. So we just threw these together. I say I mean, actually, I think Ashton categorized a lot of these. I only did a few modifications to it, but these include blurred vision, double vision, difficulty swallowing, dry mouth, strange smells, metallic taste, oral thrush, sore eyes, sound and light sensitivity, and tinnitus. Now, I have half of these on here at least. I've had tinnitus 3 types. Still have it right now. It's still in my right ear, sharp tune, just going straight. So that's still around. And so fortunately, I didn't have the sound and light sensitivity. I do have the oral thrush. It comes and goes. Strange smells, that came and went. So that's past now. I don't get that much anymore. So that one's good. Difficulty swallowing. This is one I just got recently last year and went through all these procedures, esophageal dilation and everything else. But that has gotten significantly better for me even too. So just in the last year, I get it. It's 5% of what it was. So it's so much better now. Never really had problems with the vision. So that's that category. Let's jump on to the third one here. Head and neck symptoms. This includes balance issues, dizziness, lightheadedness, headache, migraines, neck pain, slurred speech, throat tightening. Headaches are kind of interesting because I got headaches, but I don't really know, to be honest, that they increased from the way they were pre-benzos for me. So that may have been a condition I've always had. It comes and goes. I don't get headaches too often. I don't get migraines. So that might have been one of those. But the one thing that was unique that I did get my very first migraine during benzo withdrawal, and I only got one. I got one. And it wasn't the painful kind. I was very glad. It was a visual migraine, meaning I started to see these floaters, not floaters, but stars, and I was having trouble seeing, and I couldn't. And thankfully, not thankfully for my wife, but thankfully my wife has migraines. Not saying I'm thankful she has migraines, I'm not. But for me, it was beneficial because she told me it was a migraine, told me to lay down. I did, and it passed. But it was my very first and only migraine was during my withdrawal. I get a lot of tight muscles, so we get neck pain, all that kind of stuff. I had dizziness and vertigo during the use of the drug. This is an interesting one for me, but it's one of those few ones that I had while I was taking Klonopin that cleared up when I came off. So I had vertigo off and on for 12 years taking the drug because it is also a side effect of the drug. And then when I came off, though, that one cleared up. So that one cleared up actually before I even started getting some of the other symptoms, so that was good. Slurred speech, I still get to this day. I actually had it just a couple days ago. If I get excited, and I do sometimes, and like you've heard on my podcast, when I'm nice and calm, I talk to you in my low baritone voice, not forced. I'm not making that happen. It's just when I'm calm, my voice lowers and I talk in that natural voice. But when I get excited, my voice goes up and I start to do more. And when I get excited about things, if I'm in an argument or a heated discussion, or I can't wait to tell somebody about something and I'm excited about it, I start to slur my speech. So I'm wondering if some of you have the same, but I still get that, and I still get tongue-tied, and I have to just stop and say, hang on for a second, let me back up, and then I calm down, take a couple breaths, and I can speak fine. It's not a huge problem, but I still get that. I still get that one. Fourth category is heart and lungs, including heart palpitations, overbreathing, chest pain, air hunger, gasping, flushing, sweating. Yes to almost all those for me. Heart palpitations I had, they've come and gone. Another one that's gone. See, try to pay attention to all these things that I've had that are now gone, okay? Because there's a lot of them that are now gone that I don't deal with anymore, okay? Overbreathing, yes. Chest pain, definitely had that, and had some costochondritis and other chest pain and different, and I've been dealing with that. Had 5 or 6 EKGs in a row within a year and a half at one point, just swearing I had, a heart attack. Flushing, definitely had that. That has come and gone, thankfully. Yes, that's gone. The air hunger has come and gone. So yes, most of these have passed. So again, doing much better in that area. Let's look at muscular here. Aches and pains, electric shocks, fatigue, sprains, pulls and tears, stiffness, tremors, twitches, jerks and tics, weakness, convulsions, paralysis, seizures. Okay, that's under muscular. First of all, never had paralysis, never had seizures, thank God. So those are usually more of acute withdrawal symptoms, the ones you might get the first month or two coming off the drug, usually the first few weeks coming off the drug. But not so much in bind or the protracted state. So they're more commonly the withdrawal symptoms, the acute withdrawal symptoms. But I do have the muscle aches and pains and tears and pulls. I had plenty of that along the way. I still get the electric shocks. I'm getting them today. I've had those along with that. When I've said I've been having nerve pain now for 4 months now, I'm getting a lot of electric shocks. That's part of it. So I'm getting zaps throughout the body. One of those is in my foot, and it hits this one spot that is just really painful, and that's that foot pain I'm having. And I think it's caused by paresthesia, which is the pins and needles shocking and stuff like that. But fatigue, had that, but also that's common with COVID and long COVID, so I don't know which is which at this point, but I've had that come and go. And tremors, and I still get muscle twitches. I still get that a lot. That's come back now, and I'm dealing with that as we do. But some of that's gone, and some of that I still deal with. So let's get to these last two here, and I'll wipe this. Well, I'll wipe this up. No, what's the term? Not wipe this up. What's it? God, see, there's the brain. There's the brain. Wrap this up. I meant to say wrap this up. God, wipe this stuff. It had a different connotation that I didn't mean to say, but I'll wrap this up. Nerve sensations is the sixth category here under physical. It's altered sensations, hypersensitivity, numbness, paresthesia, formication, skin rashes, itching, tingling, burning skin. Yeah, to about half of those. I can't say I've had the burning skin, but I know people who have, and I really, really feel for you all. I know that one's tough. Right now I have the paresthesia going on. I have some numbness and some definitely hypersensitivity. I also have some hyperalgesia, which means that you're hypersensitive to touch at the time. I got all that going on, and that came along with this last wave. These are new for me. I didn't have these earlier on, and now I'm getting hit with those. So those are definitely something happening. Maybe it's just another sign of my body finally healing. Hey, fingers crossed, okay? But hypersensitivity probably is one of the most common for all this. Hypersensitivity, I think, sums up our symptoms overall from benzodiazepine exposure. We are hypersensitive, both psychologically and physically. And all these other symptoms are just offshoots of that. So that's a big one. Formication, I've had formication on the left side of my face. I had that for years. And I'd say that went away finally a couple years ago, and I rarely get that now. And that was spiders crawling on the left side of my face. It sounded worse than it really was, trust me. It's something I adjusted to and I got used to. Kind of like the tinnitus. You kind of, after a while, tune it out because it's just regular. So anyway, that's what that was. That's gone, which is good. But now I got these other pins and needles and paresthesia going on right now. So it's something new. And the last one, immune and endocrine symptoms, which is increased infections, lowered immune system, breast swelling, breast pain, menstrual difficulties, sexual dysfunction, and lost libido. Now, some of these automatically I don't deal with. Breast swelling, I mean, you can as a male, but it's pretty uncommon. Breast pain and menstrual difficulties just aren't my factors now as a guy. So sexual dysfunction, definitely had that on the drugs. It did kill my libido. It killed my libido. it reduced my libido. And so the good news is actually coming off the drug. While that can also still have effects, it can also be the return of your libido, which is nice. I've had that, and that's a good thing. I believe I might have had low increased infections, a lowered immune system. I don't know the benzos were necessarily a cause of that, but I'm guessing they were. And that's the 14 categories. I'm going to stop there. I know I rambled through those quickly, so sorry if I was just talking, 40 miles an hour, but that was that. I wanted to talk about a couple more things before I let you go today. And this is going to be a little longer one, maybe a full old length of the Benzo Free podcast. But those are the symptoms I've had. And I would say 85% of those maybe are in the past. And that's a really good thing. So I still have maybe 15%. Again, I want to remind everybody that I am a unique case. I had complications. I had some other factors that played into this, and I am in the minority. So please don't think this is where you're going to be in 10 years. The likelihood of that is very remote. Okay? Just keep that in mind. And I still have hope that I will heal fully. And if I don't, it's okay. I still live a pretty good life. And I'm pretty happy about things. And I'm learning to adapt to all kinds of stuff. And I tell you, it's teaching me a lot. It's teaching me what I can live through and what I can live with. And that's pretty cool. So let's talk about what I've learned over the last 10 years of benzos. I thought I'd go back to the book, and I kind of gave that back history and the different phases I've been. And I thought, let's go back to the beginning and see what I thought. And I was just curious about this. And in the book, I wrote this up. I wrote up how to manage fear and anxiety. I wrote a whole chapter in my book about managing the fear, I think I called it. It's about managing our anxiety. And I really felt, even back then, when I was writing this up in 2016, 2017, and published it in 2018, when I was writing this up and studying it, I really felt like this was essential. And I thought I'd go back and look at this piece of it, look at that section, which also became episodes 3, 4, and 5 of the Benzo Free podcast. So if you wanted to check those out, go check out those early Benzo Free podcast ones. It was a 3-parter I did. But there were 5 key words or 5 key areas that I did in that. And I thought, what if I, to give some structure to me, just what I've learned, because it could be loosey-goosey all over the place. What if I went back and looked at those 5 and thought, do those still hold true? And if not, what have I learned differently? So if you don't mind, let's go take a look. So like I said, I recorded these back in 2020 of 2019 on the podcast, and they also were published in my book in 2018 if you want to find them. And I'll put some links in our show notes. So 5 key areas I think we can help ourselves manage fear and anxiety. And let me back up one second and say, why is it important to manage the fear? Why is it important to manage our anxiety? And the main reason is because in all my time working this, and I've worked in this now for 12 years, from starting to write the book, through all the work, medical research, through founding organizations, to co-chairing work groups, to teaching doctors through CME trainings and developing peer training courses, and all those things I've been doing, not a lot has changed in how I feel about this. And I want to talk about some of the things I have, but I still think managing the fear and managing the anxiety is the one area I still believe where we can make the most difference to improve how we deal with benzo withdrawal and bind, and how we get through it and the success we have. I think developing those tools, I think focusing on that, finding ways of managing that, and these 5 areas I still think are pretty accurate. But let's take a look at them. The first one of the 5 key areas is responsibility. And I was just working these up as principles for our new membership site, because I work this term of compassionate responsibility that I came up with that I really like, that combines compassion for what we're going through with taking responsibility for your own healing. And I think responsibility is still key. Take responsibility for your own recovery. Basically, you have a say in what happens to you. It means Take responsibility for your own medical journey. Your doctor doesn't know everything. We've learned that. Unfortunately, we've learned that. Now, I'm not about to tell you don't listen to your doctor. I can't tell you that, and I don't believe that. I think you need to listen to your doctor. They have medical knowledge you don't have unless you're also a doctor. But you also can get second opinions, and you can also tell them what you've learned, and you can work with them as a partner. Okay? And that's one of the key things I learned through all this was my doctor's not in charge. I am. And if I don't like what the doctor said, I can get a second opinion from another doctor and help work with that person. And I've done that many times in my recovery from benzodiazepines. In fact, just now, I've gone to see a second neurologist in this whole process of dealing with this nerve pain and foot pain that I have going on. And I really liked the second neurologist that I went to see. And I think he's a guy that I can work with on this. And he's on board with the benzos. And he gets it. And so I found somebody I can work with. It takes time. And it can even take a little cost sometimes to do that. But finding the right person, the right team, the right partners for you is so important. So responsibility for your recovery. You're the only one who can help you get better. The only real person. Yes, we all are there to give you support. Absolutely. But you're the one that makes the decisions. You're the one that can fix this. And I think that's really important to keep in mind is that you're the only one that can do this, but also it's your responsibility to do it. You can't pass it off on somebody else. You have to be the one to get your butt off the seat, to go exercise, to go learn some tools, to go listen to some meditation tapes, to go whatever it is that's going to help you. You're the one that has to have that motivation to do it. It's up to you. It's up to you. The second one is positivity. And boy, I just came across this one. In fact, let me bring up my phone here for a second. I want to show you. I want to run through 3 things I just saw yesterday. This is actually things I saw yesterday, and I took notes in my phone about them. Because I wanted to cover them on a podcast at some point. But I like the term of lean positive, meaning because positivity as just a term of being positive all the time doesn't work. It doesn't work. We know that. We know that, okay? You can't just be positive when you're having burning skin or abdominal distension or, hallucinations or, these symptoms that some of us have gone through. When I have nerve pain shooting through my leg, it's kind of hard to just say, oh, be positive, I like a term better of lean positive, which means when it comes down to things, especially something that you come across in your life and you're not sure which way and which way your perspective is going to take it, if you have a choice, lean positive. The glass half full. Lean positive when it matters. And have some gratitude and find those positive things. I think that's really important. So anyway, I was kind of lost. I was kind of in this hole, this analogy I used on Uneven Podcast, and I've been dealing with a lot of stuff lately. And these few things I came across all in one morning within about an hour, and I thought they were interesting. And the first one was my wife woke up and she was talking about, we were waking up and we were laying in bed that morning, and she was telling about a sermon she went to when she went with her mom to a church recently. And she said that the youth pastor was subbing in that day, and he broke everybody into groups of 3 and had them ask among themselves these 2 questions. And that is, what do you like about the old way of doing church, and what do you like about the new way of doing church? And what I liked about this was it wasn't, tell me what's wrong with the church right now, or tell me what's wrong with the way we used to do church, or but instead, tell me what was right. What do you like about it? I just liked that. It was a good, positive method of approaching it. So that led me to an MLK quote that I came across on one of my actual games on my phone. And there's a mahjong game I play, just, matching tiles, mahjong, and it shows up quotes before each one. And this one was there. So let me pull this up on my phone. I sent it to myself. Here it is. And it was an MLK Jr., Martin Luther King Jr. quote. And he said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. And hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." And, okay, I just got that after the first one. So both of these are saying, hey, positivity is a good place to be going. Hate is, I always think a term that a saying I have to myself all the time is, and it's one, I don't know if I made it up or I heard it somewhere, but it's one that I came up with. It's either whether I stole it or not, I don't know, but it's basically hating haters is still hate. Because I see that all the time. So many people are calling other people names and the worst names out there. And to me, that's still hate. And I don't know why these people don't see that you're still hating on somebody else. And I guess I see it because I've done it myself. But I don't want to, and I don't want to be that person. So, but hate is not going to create, hate's going to create more hate. Darkness will create more darkness. So bring a little light into it, bring a little love into it. And that's the way we're really going to get a little more positive. So that was another quote. And then I had one, don't leave me yet. I have one more. And then on the same app, the same game, I played it a little later. And this one came up, and this was from Wayne Dyer, who was a mindfulness type writer and coach, if you don't know who he is. And he said, where is that one? Here it is. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So I took that to mean if you start to look at things positively, that was me closing my phone, then things will become more positive. Now, I'm not jumping on the secret bandwagon here or anything. I'm just saying put good things out and the universe brings it back. And, maybe there's something to that. Maybe there isn't. I'm not going either direction here. I'm just saying, though, in general, if you have the choice on something that happens in your life and you can choose, say they brought you the wrong sandwich at a restaurant than what you ordered. And you can say, oh God, there they go again. They messed up my sandwich. They always mess up my sandwich. I can't believe they did this. I don't want to send it back because then they're just going to mess it up again and I'm going to be eating late. And now I got to, it just sucks. Or did you say, they brought me a tuna on rye. I've never had a tuna on rye. Let's give it a shot. Maybe it's something I'll like. Or even, hey, you brought me a tuna on rye. I had ordered the grilled cheese. Do you mind maybe just packaging up the grilled cheese to go or something, or whatever it is? There's ways of dealing with these things in life that happen to you, including benzo withdrawal and bind. So if we can lean positive, just lean positive, in spite of whatever's going on in your life, it can make your life a little bit better. Number 3 is activity. This one's simple. Maintaining mental and physical activity. I wrote this back then, and I have this again, like the first two, this still is true. This is still true. Be as active as you can. Now, while listening to your body, it's important to listen to your body. When I first came off benzos, I tried to do too much physical therapy and did too much exercise, and I pulled muscles, and that can happen. We can be very tight coming off benzos, okay? And our muscles really can lock up. My muscles are still locking up to this day. I know I talked to a lot of people, including 2 good friends recently, that have had this foot pain and have locked up feet and really tight feet. And I think there's something going on there. And I'm looking into that one. Don't worry. But thanks to those guys for sending that in to me, because that's something that I'm really gonna dig into. I won't say their names because I haven't had the permission to say who they are right now, even though I don't think either one of them would mind. But you know who you are. And but I'm seeing that more and more, and I think there's something there. But while I'm saying is we can have locked up muscles. So just when you exercise, listen to your body. Don't push it too far. Okay? Do what you can, but do what you can. The one thing I kept doing no matter what was walking. I would get outside and walk, and I had a dog, and this kept me walking, and now I have another dog. And it gets me outside. I do 2 to 3 miles a day just walking my dog. Even with the foot pain now, I can walk, which is good. And so I still do that with the dog because I got to keep moving. We can't just let it win, okay? This is one of our little ways of fighting back, okay, is keep moving as you can. Get the exercise. When I first came off of, I was swimming laps and doing a lot of pool work in the early years of my benzo withdrawal, and that helped a lot. Whatever works for you, keep moving. And mentally, keep using your brain. Don't give in to the cognitive dysfunction and the memory loss. Keep using your brain. Do what you can to keep your brain active and keep it alive. I really believe that helps a lot in improving your state, your cognitive state at the end when you finally are healed. Okay? You got to rebuild some of this stuff. Not all of it just comes back to you. Some of this you have to rebuild. Number 4 is kindness, and this still to me holds true. Having kindness for yourself and for others. Number 1, for yourself. That's just self-explanatory. Be kind to yourself. This is hard. For those of us who wind up with acute benzo withdrawal and bind, this is hard. It's maybe one of the hardest things you'll ever experience. Again, for that minority of people that get this long-term protracted condition, but it's really hard. Give yourself some grace. Treat yourself nice. Treat yourself to things now and then. Give yourself a break when you can't make it into work that day. Give yourself a break if you couldn't attend your child's concert because you couldn't sit in a chair for longer than 10 minutes. I know, I've been there. Not for my child, but for my niece and nephews. And I couldn't attend some events. I know it's hard, but you have to cut yourself some slack. Don't beat yourself up. And if for some reason you wound up updosing or reinstating on benzos, don't let people on the boards tell you how horrible you are. You're not. You're not. Sometimes that's what we have to do. I don't recommend it, but I do if you get to a certain state, okay? Overall, yeah, it can cause more complications, but sometimes that's the only thing that can get you through. And I know because I did it. I updosed one night when I was on a work trip in Baltimore. And I did it. And it slowed me down and it set me back for about 6 months. But I started again. And then I continued my taper. And I came off of Klonopin. Just be kind to yourself. Cut yourself some slack. And cut slack for others. Give others a break. Anybody who is helping you out, anybody who is taking care of you, even if they don't fully believe you yet, cut them some slack. You need them. You need people around. Even cut your doctor a little slack. I told you the doctor that helped me didn't believe I needed to come off benzos. He didn't believe anybody needed to. He didn't think there was a problem with it. I told him I wanted to, and I wanted to work with him, and he said okay. He made me wait 6 months, and then we continued on, and he was perfect for me. Your doctor doesn't have to be perfect in the world of benzo knowledge or benzo wise. It has to be somebody you trust, who believes that you're going through something and can run tests, and who you can go to when you have symptoms, who can check out and run your EKGs and all those kinds of things, those things you need. Somebody who can prescribe for you all those things you need done by a medical expert. And the same goes for family. You need them around. And friends, you need them around. So many out there are alone going through this, and I can't imagine what that's like. If you want those people to stay around, cut them some slack. This is hard for them too. Being a caregiver for a benzo person is hard, damn hard. Now, I know you're going through worse, and I get that. I went through worse. But I always wanted to make sure I cut my wife some slack, because this is really hard for her. So keep that in mind. The last one is acceptance. Acceptance, and that hasn't changed. It's funny how I mentioned acceptance in this, although I wasn't thinking 5 stages of grief back in 2019 or 2018 when I wrote this in my book. I wasn't even thinking of that. It's funny. I just said acceptance because I think finding acceptance of your condition is important. And I'm just now realizing this, but I wasn't thinking of 5 stages of grief. And then about a year or two ago, I started to see the 5 stages of grief over and over and over again in the people I'm working with. And I started to incorporate that in some of the work I've been doing. And it's really been helpful. And acceptance is that last stage. For those who don't know, 5 stages of grief usually include denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And acceptance is that stage when you realize, hey, okay, this happened to me. I now need to find a way to get through it and make the best of my time while I'm here. Yeah. And that's the acceptance side. But yeah, you hit the denial, we'll hit the anger, we hit the bargaining, we hit the depression. I've been there, I've done that, I've done all those. And I do it many times. Sometimes every wave brings on a new symptom, and I go through these 5 stages of grief in a smaller version each time. I just now did that with this nerve pain that I have now. I had again the denial and the anger and bargaining and depression, not always in that order, but they were all in there somewhere. And in the last couple weeks, I've reached acceptance again. And now I can move forward. And honestly, most of the time after I've reached acceptance, the symptom usually eases, if not completely goes away. I've seen that time and time again. Kind of funny. But finding acceptance for your condition, getting past the anger you feel for what happened to you, getting past the denial, getting past the bargaining, saying, hey, if I eat right and I do all my exercises and I do this right, will you take this away from me? It doesn't usually work that way. And the depression. This is a depressing condition for many of us. But then there's acceptance. And acceptance can be almost magical sometimes when you get there. And this process is not something you can force, and you can't force it on another. They have to find their way through it, but I think it's important. So anyway, I have been talking for a little while. Where am I at? Wow, I'm already over an hour. God, I haven't done one over an hour in a long time. I did not mean to go past an hour. Sorry about this, but I had so much. No, I'm not sorry. I'm going to town here. I'm 10 years benzo free. Yay! I didn't really celebrate at the beginning. I should have done the whole confetti thing and cheers for myself, but I didn't. But I am happy to be 10 years benzo free. I won. You know why I won? Because I'm still here. I'm still here. And that means I won. So take that, benzos. Take that. You didn't win. And you can't let them win either. You can't let them win. You got to fight. Together, we get through this. But you didn't win. I won. I won because I'm still here. Still doing this podcast. Still talking to you. Oh, God. Sorry. I got to pull it together enough to close this out. I did not see that one coming. I didn't feel any of that when I first did the intro. I had it scripted out, but boy, when I just said that, that wasn't scripted. That was me. That was just me. You know what? I'm gonna break right now for the disclaimer, and then I'll come back and close this out, and this will give me a second to pull myself together. Okay. Sorry about that. Hey, this is Dee, and sorry for this brief interruption. I do need to remind everyone that this podcast is for informational purposes only and should never be considered medical, psychological, or professional health advice of any kind. You can read our full disclaimer on our website at easinganxiety.com/disclaimer. Also, if you or someone you know is dealing with significant mental health issues, please seek professional help. Resources can be found in our show notes and on our website at easinganxiety.com. And now, back to the podcast. So I'll keep this ending short. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for going along with me on this journey, especially to those friends of mine who keep writing to me regardless, even if I haven't been responsive lately, which I've been horrible at being responsive on emails. But thank you from the bottom of my heart. for your emails, your comments, and everything. I see them. Trust me, I see them. I've just not been great at responding, but that's where our new community site is going to come in. That'll be the place that we can have these conversations, and one place where we can be focused on that, and I'm looking forward to that. But thank you. Thank you for saving my life. Thank you for giving me company. Thank you for sharing your hardships with me. I know how hard that was. And for sharing your successes. And thank you for being my friend. To all of you. Thanks for being my friend. So I'm going to close now for the 135th time, but not the last time, with the following words. Keep calm. Taper slowly. And take care of yourself. I'll see you next time.